The grand halls of the Galactic Council buzzed with activity aboard Zenith Prime, the most magnificent space station in the universe. Representatives from dozens of advanced alien species gathered around the central chamber, their voices a mix of unfamiliar languages and tones. Holographic displays projected intricate data and star maps, detailing the stability of the galaxy. Captain Alex Ramirez stood near the periphery, observing the proceedings with a keen eye. As Earth's newly appointed military liaison, he was acutely aware of the skeptical glances directed his way. Whispers floated around him. "Can you believe they let a human in here? Earth's technology is so primitive. What can they possibly offer? Deathworld or not, they're centuries behind." Alex straightened his uniform, refusing to let their words affect him. He recalled Earth's harsh environments, towering mountains, raging oceans, and unpredictable weather that tested humanity's resilience daily. These challenges had forged a people adept at survival, even if the rest of the galaxy failed to recognize it. At the center of the chamber, a Lemurian delegate with luminescent skin addressed the assembly. "Our alliance thrives on superior technology. Our energy shields and plasma cannons keep us safe. We have no equal." Applause echoed through the hall. Holograms displayed the latest advancements: shimmering energy fields, fleets of AI-controlled drones, weapons capable of obliterating entire asteroids. Confidence radiated from every corner. A subtle tremor coursed through the station. The holographic displays flickered momentarily. Alex noticed but hesitated to speak. Moments later, a brief report flashed: unusual cosmic disturbances detected in several sectors. A Trilaxian scientist waved a tentacled limb dismissively. "Minor anomalies, nothing more. Probably sensor glitches." Alex stepped forward. "With respect, shouldn't we investigate these disturbances further? Unanticipated events can escalate if ignored." Several delegates exchanged amused glances. A Soriac ambassador with scaled skin smirked. "Captain Ramirez, our technology can handle any unforeseen issues. There's no need for alarm." Choosing his words carefully, Alex replied, "Technology has its limits. On Earth, we've learned that preparation and adaptability are crucial." The room fell silent before resuming its previous discussions. Feeling the futility of pressing further, Alex withdrew. Later, in one of the station's common areas, Alex observed various alien species interacting. Exotic aromas filled the air, and unfamiliar music played softly. He approached a group of alien soldiers. "Care to join me for a training session? I'd like to show you some of Earth's basic defense techniques." A tall, blue-skinned Zephyrian chuckled. "Basic indeed. No offense, Captain, but our combat simulations are far beyond physical sparring." Another chimed in. "We've evolved past the need for such primitive methods." Alex smiled politely. "Sometimes the simplest approaches are the most effective. On Earth, we've had to adapt to survive a multitude of threats." The Zephyrian waved a dismissive hand. "Thanks, but we'll stick to our own training." Nodding, Alex took his leave, making his way to the observation deck. Gazing into the vast expanse of stars, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The reports of cosmic disturbances nagged at him. Rumors began to circulate about the Koger, a hostile species known for their physical prowess and appetite for conquest. They thrived on hand-to-hand combat, their technology crude but reliable. Whispered conversations hinted at skirmishes on distant planets, but the Council seemed content to ignore them. Determined, Alex requested an audience with the Council's Security Committee. Seated across from a panel of seasoned officials, he presented his concerns. "There are increasing reports about the Koger mobilizing. Given the recent anomalies affecting our technology, we should prepare for the possibility of an attack where our systems may not be reliable." An elderly Viridian with shimmering eyes leaned forward. "Captain Ramirez, our defenses are unparalleled. The Koger are a primitive race. Even if they dared to challenge us, they would be no match for our capabilities." Alex met his gaze steadily. "On Earth, history has shown that underestimating an opponent can lead to disaster." A committee member interrupted. "Ancient history from a single planet is hardly applicable on a galactic scale." Taking a deep breath, Alex persisted. The principle remains. We must not let overconfidence blind us to potential threats. The Viridian sighed. Your concerns are noted. This meeting is adjourned. Leaving the chamber, Alex felt a mix of frustration and resolve. If the council wouldn't heed his warnings, he would have to find another way. Back in his quarters, he began compiling reports, reaching out to contacts who might provide more information on the Koger. He sent messages to Earth, requesting updates and advising increased vigilance. Meanwhile, aboard Zenith Prime, life continued as usual. Delegates attended lavish gatherings, soldiers trained in virtual reality suites, and the general populace remained blissfully unaware of any impending danger. One evening, while studying star charts in the library, Alex was approached by a young alien cadet with silver skin and curious eyes. Captain Ramirez? He looked up. Yes? I overheard your discussion with the council. I wanted to know more about these physical combat techniques you mentioned. Surprised, Alex gestured to a seat. Of course. On Earth, we've developed various methods of self-defense and strategy without relying on advanced technology. The cadet leaned in. Do you think you could teach me? A hint of a smile appeared on Alex's face. I'd be happy to. We can start tomorrow morning. As they parted ways, Alex felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps change could start small. The next day, in a secluded area of the station, Alex began training the cadet. Word spread, and a few more curious individuals joined. They practiced basic stances, strikes, and defensive maneuvers. Though awkward at first, the aliens showed genuine interest and improvement. During a break, one of them remarked, "It's fascinating how you humans have adapted to survive without relying solely on technology." Alex nodded. Necessity breeds innovation. On a world as unpredictable as Earth, we've had to be versatile. Unbeknownst to them, a shadow loomed on the horizon. The Koger were drawing nearer, and the cosmic disturbances were no longer mere anomalies. Time was running out, and the fragile peace the council so dearly clung to was about to be shattered. Back in the council chambers, debates raged on about trade agreements and territorial disputes, all while ignoring the growing threat. Alex made one final attempt to address the assembly. Esteemed delegates, I urge you once more to consider the intelligence reports on the Koger. We must prepare ourselves beyond just relying on our technology. A Murian diplomat sneered. Captain Ramirez, your persistence is tiresome. We have safeguarded this galaxy for millennia without Earth's intervention. A ripple of energy, invisible yet immense, surged through the galaxy without warning. One moment, Zenith Prime and countless other worlds hummed with the steady pulse of advanced technology. The next, everything went eerily silent. Lights flickered and died, holographic displays dissolved into thin air, and the ever-present hum of engines faded into nothingness. Captain Alex Ramirez was in the middle of a training session with his small group of alien students when the gravity fluctuated, causing everyone to stumble. Emergency alarms wailed briefly before being cut off. He looked around as confusion spread across faces not accustomed to uncertainty. What's happening? One of the cadets asked, eyes wide. I don't know, Alex replied, his voice steady. Stay calm. Throughout Zenith Prime, panic erupted. Ships docked at the station drifted aimlessly, their thrusters unresponsive. Communication devices emitted only static. Inhabitants accustomed to the reliability of their technology found themselves thrust into chaos. In the Grand Council chamber, delegates shouted over one another, their usual composure shattered. We need answers, demanded the Soriak ambassador. Our instruments are dead, a Trilaxian scientist exclaimed. We can't diagnose anything without them. Alex made his way to the chamber, pushing through the frantic crowds. This is exactly what I feared, he thought. The council members huddled together, their faces reflecting fear they had never known. All our defenses are offline, the Lemurian delegate whispered. We're vulnerable. At that moment, distant stars began to shimmer ominously. From the fringes of known space, dark shapes materialized, Koger warships, bulky and robust, advancing steadily. Unlike the Alliance's sleek vessels, Koger's ships were built for durability, not reliant on delicate systems now rendered useless. As the Koger fleet closed in, their warriors prepared for battle. Towering figures with armored hides and eyes gleaming with predatory anticipation, they were the embodiment of physical dominance. Wielding massive blades and projectile weapons immune to the blackout, they relished the impending conquest. On outlying planets, the first clashes began. Alliance soldiers, untrained in combat without their tech, found themselves overwhelmed. Energy weapons failed to fire, personal shields didn't activate, and panic set in. The Koger tore through defenses with brutal efficiency. Reports of defeat flooded into Zenith Prime via sporadic, short-range transmissions. "We've lost contact with Vega Prime. The Koger have breached our colonies in Sector 9. In the council chamber, despair settled like a heavy fog. "Our forces are being decimated," a Viridian general admitted, slumping into a chair. "We can't fight them like this," the Murian diplomat said, her voice barely above a whisper. Amidst the turmoil, Alex stepped forward. "We need to adapt," he stated firmly. The Soriak ambassador looked up, desperation evident. "What can we do? Our technology is useless." Alex met his gaze. "We fight the way humans have fought for millennia, using our bodies, our minds, and whatever resources are available." Skepticism flickered across faces, but the urgency left no room for pride. "You have a plan?" the Lemurian delegate asked. "I do. We can train your soldiers in basic combat and survival techniques. It's not too late." Murmurs spread through the assembly. "Physical combat? Against the Koger?" someone questioned. "Do you have a better option?" Alex challenged. Silence followed. The council members exchanged glances, the weight of their predicament pressing down. "Very well," the Viridian general conceded. "You have our authorization. Begin immediately." Without wasting a moment, Alex contacted Earth. Using emergency communication methods that humans had preserved, he reached the United Earth's military command. "We have a situation. The Alliance is under attack, and their technology has failed. We need personnel skilled in low-tech warfare." A seasoned voice replied. "Understood, Captain. We're dispatching units trained in traditional combat. They'll arrive as soon as possible." True to their word, human soldiers arrived on Zenith Prime within hours, piloting manual spacecraft designed for reliability over sophistication. Clad in practical gear and carrying conventional weapons, they were a stark contrast to the elaborate aesthetics of the Alliance's forces. As they disembarked, Alex greeted them. "Glad you're here. We're up against the Koger, and the Alliance troops need training fast." One of the soldiers, Sergeant Maria Lopez, nodded. "We've studied the Koger's tactics. We'll focus on strength, endurance, and strategic combat." The transformation of parts of Zenith Prime into training grounds began. Alliance soldiers gathered, uncertainty etched on their features. They stood in starkly varied shapes and sizes, some with multiple limbs, others with none, but all shared the same apprehension. Maria addressed them. "We know you're not used to this kind of fighting. But we're going to teach you how to survive and win." The first sessions were challenging. Alien soldiers struggled with the physical demands of the exercises. Accustomed to relying on technology, many lacked basic stamina and coordination in combat scenarios. "Remember, your body is now your primary weapon," Alex encouraged. "Use your strengths, speed, agility, whatever advantages your physiology offers." Gradually, progress was made. A tentacled Trilaxian found that their appendages could entangle opponents effectively. A heavy-set Soriak discovered his mass gave him an edge in defensive maneuvers. Meanwhile, reports indicated the Koger were regrouping for a major assault. Time was running short. In a makeshift strategy room lit by emergency lighting, Alex and Alliance leaders pored over star charts and intel. "The Koger expect an easy victory," Alex said. "We need to use that to our advantage. We could set up ambush points here and here," Maria suggested, pointing to narrow passages where the station's architecture could funnel the attackers. "Agreed," the Viridian general said, newfound respect in his eyes. Our knowledge of the station's layout combined with your tactics might just level the playing field. Skepticism hadn't vanished entirely. Some officials grumbled about relying on archaic methods. But as news of small victories from other sectors reached them, where physically trained units held off Koger advances, their doubts began to wane. The final preparations were intense. Drills continued around the clock. Bonds formed between human and alien soldiers, united by a common purpose. Even the council members participated in planning, their earlier disdain replaced by earnest collaboration. On the eve of the expected attack, Alex addressed the assembled forces. Tomorrow, we face a formidable enemy. But remember, they underestimate us. They think we're weak without our technology. We'll show them they're wrong. A resolute silence followed, the weight of his words sinking in. Eyes that once looked upon him with skepticism now held trust and determination. As dawn broke, though artificial in the depths of space, the Koger fleet loomed into view. Alarms powered by backup systems sounded throughout Zenith Prime. The station braced itself. The initial assault was fierce. Koger warriors breached the outer hull, expecting disorganized resistance. Instead, they encountered coordinated teams employing guerrilla tactics. Narrow corridors became choke points, darkened rooms concealed strategic traps. A Koger warrior swung his massive blade at a slender Zephyrian soldier, who deftly dodged and countered with a well-placed strike taught by Maria. Shock registered on the Koger's face as he fell. Elsewhere, a group of Trilaxians used their tentacles to disarm and immobilize attackers, turning the Koger's strength against them. In the command center, Alex coordinated movements, relaying information through hand signals and simple devices. The battle was intense, but for the first time, the Alliance held its ground. Hours later, the Koger began to retreat, their confidence shaken. Cheers erupted throughout the station. It wasn't a definitive victory, but it was a crucial turning point. Exhausted yet elated, the defenders gathered. The Lemurian delegate approached Alex. Captain Ramirez, your leadership has given us hope. We were wrong to doubt you. He gave a modest nod. We did this together. But the fight isn't over. We need to continue adapting. The council convened an emergency meeting, this time with a markedly different atmosphere. We propose that you take command of our defense forces, the Viridian general said. Your expertise is indispensable. Alex accepted. On one condition, we integrate these training methods across all our forces. We must be prepared for any situation, with or without technology. Agreements were made, and plans set into motion. Communication with other Alliance worlds was re-established through human ingenuity, using methods long abandoned by others. As the meeting adjourned, a sense of renewed purpose filled the air. The Alliance had been shaken but not broken. They had discovered resilience they didn't know they possessed, guided by those they had once underestimated. The road ahead remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: the galaxy would never be the same. And humanity's role within it had irrevocably changed. The training began in earnest, with Captain Alex Ramirez standing before a diverse assembly of alien soldiers. The vast hangar had been converted into a makeshift training ground. Creatures of all shapes and sizes watched him with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Today, we start with the basics, Alex announced, his voice steady and confident. He demonstrated a simple defensive stance, feet shoulder-width apart, hands raised to protect the face. This position allows you to maintain balance and react quickly. A murmur spread through the crowd. A lanky alien with translucent skin raised a limb. Our species relies on neural disruptors. Physical combat is unusual for us. I understand, Alex replied. But with technology unreliable, we need to rely on ourselves. Trust me, your bodies are more capable than you realize. He proceeded to demonstrate a basic punch, emphasizing form and rotation. The soldiers attempted to mimic him, but many struggled. Limbs not used to such movements flailed awkwardly. Frustration mounted as they grappled with unfamiliar techniques. An armored Sauriac warrior grumbled. This is pointless. Our physiology isn't suited for this. Alex approached him calmly. What's your name? Gorith. Show me how you would naturally defend yourself. Gorith extended his spiked forelimbs, which were heavy but slow. Alex nodded thoughtfully. Your strength is in those limbs. Let's focus on enhancing your defensive capabilities rather than forcing techniques that don't suit you. Adjusting his approach, Alex began tailoring instructions to individual species. He encouraged those with multiple limbs to use them for grappling, those with tails to improve balance and striking options. The training became more collaborative, with soldiers sharing insights about their own abilities. Despite these adjustments, doubts lingered. During a break, a group gathered, voicing concerns. These methods seem primitive, a Zephyrian said. How can they stand against the Koger? Alex overheard and decided to address the group. I won't pretend this is easy. On Earth, we've faced countless challenges with limited resources. Our history is filled with examples of overcoming superior forces through strategy and adaptability. He shared stories of famous battles where ingenuity triumphed over might, of how humans had survived natural disasters and wars against overwhelming odds. The soldiers listened intently, some nodding as they began to grasp the underlying principles. The turning point came during an afternoon session. A towering Krilitan, nearly twice Alex's height, openly challenged him. Show me how your techniques can stop someone like me. Alex agreed. They squared off as others gathered to watch. The Krilitan lunged, expecting to overpower him with sheer size. Alex sidestepped gracefully, using the giant's momentum against him. With precise movements, he executed a takedown maneuver, bringing the Krilitan to the ground without causing harm. A stunned silence followed. The once skeptical soldiers exchanged glances, newfound respect evident in their eyes. If a human could subdue a being of such size, perhaps there was merit in this training after all. Motivation surged. Training sessions became more vigorous, filled with energy and determination. The soldiers began to experience small victories, mastering a technique, improving reaction times, working cohesively in pairs and teams. To accommodate the wide array of anatomies, exercises were adapted creatively. A Trilaxian with tentacles practiced entangling maneuvers. A winged Avarian learned aerial tactics for reconnaissance and surprise attacks. The training evolved into a montage of diverse beings honing their unique skills under a unified strategy. Bonds formed naturally. During meal times, humans and aliens shared stories of their home worlds. Laughter echoed as they recounted humorous misunderstandings and cultural quirks. A young Zephyrian named Lyra became particularly close to Alex, eager to absorb all he could teach. One evening, as they sat overlooking the stars, Lyra confided, I used to think humans were weak. Now I see strength isn't just physical power but resilience and adaptability. Alex smiled. And I've learned that every species has something valuable to offer. Together, we're stronger than we are alone. Meanwhile, intelligence reports trickled in about Koger movements. Without advanced tech, they relied on traditional methods, scouts observing enemy patterns, messengers relaying information. The Koger were amassing forces, preparing for another assault. In strategy meetings, Alex emphasized using the environment to their advantage. Zenith Prime has countless corridors, choke points, and defensive positions. We can funnel the Koger into areas where their numbers count for less. The plans incorporated lessons from Earth's history, guerrilla tactics, and unconventional warfare. The alien leaders began contributing ideas, inspired by the collaborative spirit. They discussed creating diversions, setting traps, and utilizing their unique abilities in coordinated efforts. Not everyone was convinced. Some high-ranking officials pressured Alex. We need results now, they insisted. The Koger won't wait for us to perfect these methods. I understand the urgency, Alex responded. But rushing will only lead to mistakes. Our soldiers need confidence in their abilities. Tensions rose as reports came in of a Koger scouting party approaching a nearby sector. Without waiting for orders, a group of newly trained soldiers volunteered to intercept them. Among them was Lyra, determined to put the training to the test. The encounter was swift and decisive. Using their new skills, the soldiers ambushed the Koger scouts, employing tactics that caught the enemy off guard. They leveraged the terrain, coordinated their attacks, and for the first time, the Koger retreated in confusion. News of the successful skirmish spread rapidly. The morale boost was palpable. Soldiers trained with renewed vigor, and previously skeptical officials began to acknowledge the effectiveness of the human-led training. The Galactic Council observed the change. Delegates who once dismissed physical combat as obsolete now watched training sessions with keen interest. The Viridian General approached Alex. "It seems we've underestimated both you and our own forces." "It's not about proving anyone wrong," Alex replied. "It's about surviving and protecting our worlds." Preparations intensified for the inevitable confrontation. The strategies blended the best of all involved: human adaptability, alien unique abilities, and a shared commitment to defend against the Koger threat. As the days progressed, camaraderie deepened. Cultural exchanges flourished, breaking down barriers that had long separated the species. In the face of adversity, they found unity. One night, gathered around a makeshift campfire, soldiers and officers alike shared their hopes and fears. A Sauriac warrior raised a toast. "To Captain Ramirez for showing us a new path." Alex shook his head modestly. "To all of you for embracing it." The impending battle loomed, but for the first time, confidence outweighed fear. They were no longer a disparate group of individuals but a cohesive force, ready to face whatever came next. The day had arrived. Intelligence confirmed that the Koger were mobilizing for a full-scale assault on Zenith Prime. The atmosphere aboard the station was tense but resolute. Soldiers prepared their gear, reviewed strategies, and steeled themselves for the imminent clash. Captain Alex Ramirez stood before the assembled forces, humans and aliens united. His voice carried across the ranks. "We've trained hard for this moment. Remember, we're not just defending a station, we're protecting our homes, our families, our very way of life. The Koger think we're vulnerable. Let's show them the strength of our unity." A wave of determination swept through the crowd. Lyra, the Zephyrian protégé, exchanged a firm nod with Alex. Around them, soldiers clasped hands, appendages, and tentacles in gestures of solidarity. As the Koger fleet approached, the defenders took their positions. The station's corridors had been transformed into strategic defensive lines. Barricades were constructed from repurposed materials, choke points were established, and traps were set in anticipation. The first impact rocked Zenith Prime as the Koger breached the outer hull. They poured into the station, expecting easy conquest. Instead, they met coordinated resistance. The dimly lit corridors played to the defenders' advantage, disorienting the Koger who relied on brute force over strategy. In one passageway, a group of Trilaxians used their tentacles to ensnare unsuspecting attackers, pulling them off balance as Sauriac warriors delivered powerful blows. Elsewhere, winged Avarians launched surprise attacks from elevated platforms, their aerial maneuvers confounding the enemy. Alex moved through the battlefield, offering guidance and support. He engaged in combat when necessary, his movements precise and efficient. At one point he found himself facing a Koger commander, a hulking figure wielding a massive blade. They circled each other, tension thick in the air. The Koger sneered. "You dare stand against us, human?" "With everything I've got," Alex replied. The commander lunged. Alex anticipated the move, sidestepping and delivering a calculated strike to a vulnerable spot. The Koger stumbled but quickly recovered, swinging his blade in a wide arc. Alex ducked, feeling the air ripple above him. Before the Koger could attack again, Lyra appeared, striking the commander from behind with a well-placed blow. Together, they coordinated their efforts, overwhelming the commander who couldn't match their synergy. The Koger fell, defeated. "Nice timing," Alex said, catching his breath. Lyra grinned. "Couldn't let you have all the fun." Throughout the station, similar victories unfolded. The Koger were unprepared for the unconventional tactics and the diverse abilities of the united defenders. Their formations broke under the relentless pressure. A group of Koger attempted to regroup in a central chamber, but the defenders had anticipated this. Using improvised explosives crafted from common supplies, they set off charges that isolated the Koger forces, forcing them into narrower passages where they were picked off systematically. The Koger's confusion grew. Accustomed to dominating through sheer strength, they struggled against an enemy that was agile, strategic, and unyielding. Their communications faltered, and disorder spread among their ranks. After hours of intense fighting, the tide fully turned. The Koger began a hasty retreat, their forces decimated and morale shattered. Cheers erupted across Zenith Prime as the last of the invaders were driven out. Exhausted but triumphant, the defenders gathered in the central atrium. Emotions ran high: relief, joy, and a profound sense of accomplishment. Soldiers embraced, celebrating the victory they had fought so hard to achieve. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, this time with a vastly different tone. The delegates acknowledged the critical role that Earth's contributions had played. The Lemurian delegate addressed the assembly. "We owe a great debt to Captain Ramirez and the human forces. Without their leadership and training, this victory might not have been possible." Applause filled the chamber. The Viridian general stood. "We must also recognize the courage and adaptability of all our soldiers. Together, we've proven that unity is our greatest strength." The Murian diplomat approached Alex after the meeting. "I offer my sincerest apologies for underestimating you and your people." Alex inclined his head. "Apology accepted. What's important is that we've learned from this experience." Discussions quickly shifted to the future. Proposals were made to integrate physical training and adaptive strategies into all Alliance defense programs. The Council agreed that reliance solely on technology was a vulnerability they could no longer afford. As days passed, the cosmic disturbances began to wane. Systems flickered back to life, and advanced technology was gradually restored. However, the Alliance members viewed their regained capabilities with a new perspective. They understood that technology was a tool, not a crutch. In the following weeks, joint training programs were established. Human instructors worked alongside alien counterparts to develop curricula that blended technological prowess with physical preparedness. The Alliance's military doctrine evolved, embracing a more holistic approach to defense. One evening, Alex found himself back on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. Lyra joined him. "Hard to believe how much has changed," she mused. He nodded. "We faced a great challenge, but it brought out the best in all of us." She smiled. "The Council has extended an invitation for you to join them as a military advisor." Alex raised an eyebrow. "I hadn't heard." "They recognize the value you bring." "So do all of us." He considered the offer. "If it means continuing to build on what we've started, then it's an honor I'll accept." The next day, in a formal ceremony, Alex was officially appointed to the Council. Representatives from across the Alliance attended, their expressions warm and respectful. The Sauriac ambassador addressed the gathering. "Let this appointment symbolize not just gratitude but a commitment to ongoing collaboration." Alex spoke humbly. "I'm grateful for this opportunity. Together, we've shown that our differences are strengths when united toward a common goal. Let's continue to learn from one another and safeguard the peace we've fought for." As the ceremony concluded, there was a palpable sense of optimism. The Alliance had emerged stronger and more cohesive. Old prejudices had been dismantled, replaced by mutual respect and understanding. Back on Earth, news of the developments reached home. Humanity's role on the galactic stage had been redefined. They were no longer seen as the inhabitants of a distant, death world, but as valued partners whose resilience and ingenuity had made a profound impact. In the months that followed, technological advancements were shared more freely among Alliance members. Joint ventures explored ways to prevent future cosmic events from crippling their systems. There was a collective commitment to ensuring that no single point of failure could jeopardize their security again. Alex continued his work on the Council, advocating for policies that emphasized balance between technology and skill, tradition and innovation. His experiences had taught him that progress was not just about advancement, but about wisdom in how that advancement was applied. One day, As he walked through the bustling corridors of Zenith Prime, he watched as soldiers of various species trained together, laughter and encouragement echoing through the halls. It was a vision of the future he had hoped for, a united galaxy where collaboration trumped division. Lyra approached him with a date pad. "Ready for the next council session? Agenda's packed." He smiled. "Always ready. Let's see what challenges await us today."